start with department. So we have department. Department has a unique name, so we can use the name of department as a key. Okay. Then ID also the key attribute, and room and the doctor. Room and doctor who manage the department. We will see that there's a doctor, so we can create the doctor. And the doctor's information has the name and the ID, doctor's ID, that is a key, and the contact and doctor's working department and departmental name and store. So there are two relationships you can identify between the department and doctor. One is the working, another one is the manage. Okay, so a doctor is the manager, so this one will be one-to-one relationship. Then a doctor and the head. So they of the head. This is the attribute of this one. It's the same as the what? In company database, employee and the department. We create the manager information. Then each doctor works for one department. Each doctor has a several assigned patient. We can take care of the assignment later. And this one will be many doctors can work for the work in the one department. Okay. And if there are any attribute, we can create the attribute. There's a let's take care of the patient first. The last one. Patient. For the patient information has a name and the ID and the gender and the date of birth, and so a number of the contact, which means you can create the multi-valued one for the number of contact. This stored each patient. Then the doctor has each doctor has the several assigned patient. Assign the patient, so many patient as one doctor, like this relationship. Okay. And the last one, each patient may be assigned to by the several doctor. So which means it will be many to many. Okay, we need to consider both of them. From the third paragraph, each doctor has a several assigned patient, and also the one patient is assigned by the main doctor. It will be many to many. Okay, so that is the many to many, and between doctor and patient can be stored. Okay, then the first, the paragraph, each receptionist has a name. We have the receptionist. Has a name and the unique ID, which will be key, and contact info, and register the several patient. The receptionist register the many, the patient, like this. And the receptionist maintain the record of the patient appointment. So we have the record. So record consists of the unique record ID. Record ID is a unique, and unique patient identification number, patient ID, and the receptionist ID, and description. We have description. So this may create the record. The receptionist has a many, the record, and we have the patient ID, record, and the one patient, one patient may have the many records if the come to many times. Okay? And each receptionist register the several patients. Yes. This one is done and maintains the record. Okay, so this is I quickly draw the ER diagram. There is no ER. Then we can create the ER diagram for hospital management system. More details we can add more details the attribute, and you can specify the mandatory. But the mandatory is you should be very careful because it's a very strong constraint. Okay, if clearly mentioned, then you can use the double line for that. And also, interesting part is here. So the record, the involve the receptionist and the patient. Okay? Then it's a 3. So one record, if there's a receptionist register the patient, and that is I think that you can create the receptionist as the many to many, this one, and the attribute. But as we have seen before, many to many case, we can split into one to many, one to many. Either way is fine. Okay. However, this is not the strict rule, but in general, if you can clearly find ID key and number of many attributes, you'd better create the separate entity first. Otherwise, like for example, the works on employee and project. We have many to many, but it has only one attribute. Okay? And there's no key. This one clearly has the key. Even though we do not have the record key, we can create the key using these two later. But it has a clear key, so in this case, you'd better create a separate entity. It's clearly mentioned here. However, if not clearly mentioned, but it's many to many, one or two attribute, without any specific key attribute, you can create the many to many relationship. So that is some of the students create this one as the many to many, but in this case, it's better to have the entity type. Okay, any questions? So, great.
Professor, I have
Yes.
a question.
Yes.
So when we have, say, the record that has a unique patient identification number, when the patient also has their own unique ID number,
Yes, right.
do we need to make another different
Attribute?
attribute?
No.
We can
So this one
the same
will be.
identification?
So that is his question is we had the receptionist maintain the patient ID, and the patient already had the ID, which is also unique. So these are the same. Later, we will consider such a relationship in our database. It's called the foreign key. It's another constraint. In this case, so we can maintain the patient ID, then create this relationship. It's not clearly mentioned this ID is this one. They are related, but from the meaning, we can understand. So this patient ID is here. It's a conceptual model. It's not the strict data type or the data constraint, but you are right, as Tanya mentioned, so this is actually same as this one. Similar thing happened in the employee and department. So we can maintain the department number in the employee side, right? Even though it's not mentioned here, when we create the relationship works for this employee should have the information about the department where this employee is works on. Okay, either way is fine, but this one is actually same, should be the data in the patient. Same thing for the receptionist. So receptionist information, who actually register for this patient for the record is the receptionist ID. Good question. So if you believe most of the entities and the relationship are identified, so 9 or 10. So some missing, so 6 to 8. A lot missing, so 3 to 5. Nothing, 0 to 2 point. Okay, why don't you grade and submit right now.
Professor, how are we grading it?
So if you believe your friend, the answer, identify the most of the entity type and the relationship type is 9 or 10. So if some missing, so 6 to 8, a lot missing, 3 to 5, nothing, 0 to 2 points. Yes.
So when you say each doctor works for one department,
Yes.
how come?
So each doctor works for the one department, but the department is not clear, the explicitly mentioned, the doctor, but we can assume at the time. So many doctor works for the one department. That's the general, but what if doctor works for the multiple department, right? Like the ER and internal medicine. So it should be clearly mentioned, but in this case only one. So that's the reason one team we create. Okay, back to your friend. I know you don't specify the grade. By next class, Monday, why don't you try to do your best to correct the missing part or the presentation, okay? So by next class, so bring the correct answer, then that will be marked on the canvas, okay? Any question? I'm not going to collect right now. The next class, you can bring the revised answer, and that will be graded. Okay, so let's continue. We spent a lot of time. So this is the EER diagram that we discussed last time. So ER diagram, in case we identify the secretary, technician, engineer in addition to the employee, we realize that these are also employed. Instead, which means secretary has name, SSN, birth date, address, job type. Technician has name, SSN, birth date, address, job type, and so on. Instead of creating duplicate the information, why not create the subclass? It's a part of the employee. So we call this is a subclass, and this is a superclass. Then the superclass has the common information, and the subclass has its own attribute, like the typing speed, T grade, engineering time. Definitely, the all characteristic of the subclass will be inherited to the automatically secretary. So question is, what is the key of the technician? Does it have the key attribute or not? The technician. Yes. Where is it? Superclass. The social security number, key attribute. So all this information automatically inherit to the subclass. It's exactly the same concept of inheritance in object-oriented programming. Okay. What about the engineer? Engineer is also employed, so it inherits all these attributes, which means the social security number is the key attribute. So this is a super and subclasses with relationship. So in the super and subclass, we have the two type of constraint we can consider. One is the disjoint, overlap or disjoint. The second is a completeness, mandatory or optional. So there are 4 different cases like this. Disjoint, total. Total means the mandatory. Disjoint, the partial. Partial means optional. Overlapping, total. Overlapping, partial. For example, this one is represent D. D means disjoint. Disjoint means employee cannot be multiple subclass. Only secretary or the only technician or only engineer. This is a disjoint. If you allow the 2 or 3 overlap, so this should be replaced by O. And the completeness, the mandatory or optional will be represented by single line or double line. So in this case, this is a partial. It's a optional, okay? And also this is a disjoint. Meaning is there exists employee who does not belong to any of this, okay? Just a general employee, not secretary, not technician, not engineer. That may be possible in case of optional. But if employee is one of this, it should be either secretary or technician or engineer. Okay? So that is the meaning of disjoint and overlap and also completeness, partial and the total, the mandatory or not. This is the meaning of this. It's O means overlap, which means part can be manufactured part and purchased part. You can purchase, but that is a manufacture. Also, this is a double line, meaning is any part should be this one or both of them. Okay, that is the meaning of this. So this kind of the super and subclass is called the hierarchy. Hierarchy is kind of tree structure, family tree or did you take the data structure class? I think that's at UBCS 102 and the advanced data structure class. You learned about the linked list, the stack, and so on. The last part is the graph and tree, right? So tree structure is the hierarchy. Okay, hierarchy is very popular in computer science data structure. Okay, it's used a lot, really a lot. Database also like it because it's fast to search. So to keep track of the 500 years of the ancestor, we can just follow the reverse way your family tree, right? So that is the benefit of using the hierarchy or tree. So, however, tree, how many parents do you have in family tree? One parent, right? The mother and the father. But that's one inheritance. If you have allow multiple inheritance, it's called the ladders. For example, this one. This is the tree. This is a tree. This is a tree. So these are the tree because only one inheritance, another inheritance. However, engineering manager is also subclass of this. Then how many inheritance? 1, 2, 3, multiple inheritance. If you allow this, then this is called the ladders. Ladders is more generalized tree structure. Okay, that's what we have learned before. This is the extreme case of the universe database. Question, quick question. How many entities can you find here?
One.
Only one. This is from the person and inherit. How many super and subclass relationship can you find? Let's find together. 1. Okay, person, overlap, mandatory, and employee to employee, alumnus, and the student. This is one group. Another group is employee, staff, faculty, student, assistant. 2. And the 3 is a student and student assistant. 3. And another one is the student, graduate student, undergraduate student. 4. And student assistant is the super class of the research and the teaching assistant. 5. So actually there are 5. Extreme case. That may be possible, but in real life, so you may not see such a case. But this is the extreme case, but it's doable if you can understand. Then, however, object-oriented programming uses a lot of such a inheritance to simplify your programming design and the implementation. Okay, so then here let's take a look at this one. Student assistant is the multiple inheritance, which means overall this is not hierarchy, this is a ladders. more generalized. Then you guys can understand. So this is the mandatory student assistant, either this one or this one is the disjoint like that. So you can understand the meaning of the overall the person in the university. Okay, last one. The union type is the so far. When you take a look at the superclass of any the relationship, how many entity for the superclass? One. How many superclass entity? One. The one. Even multiple inheritance, there the superclass is only one entity. Sometimes there exists multiple. It's a one inheritance but multiple entity for the superclass. For example, this one. This is a subclass. So this is a superclass and inherit to the subclass, but 1, 2, 3 entities are like the, I'm not sure, the three different parents combined together. I'm not sure if that's possible in biologically, but this one may be possible. When? For example, if you inherit the characteristic of your superclass, but each superclass are different ID, different entity. For example, here this is the, when you buy a car, so do you pay the full price in cash? Probably not. You think about the finance. Even finance, you have bank finance and the auto finance. Some manufacturers provide their own finance, like Honda. If you go to Honda, they have the 0.9, the interest rate, their own the finance. So I borrow the money from Bank of America, my own bank, and also I borrow the money from the manufacturer. And so, which means, how many owners? You are the owner, and bank is the owner. The company is the also owner. 3 different ownership. Their ID, company ID, this is bank ID, is a person social security number. Their ID are different. But all of these are inherited to the owner subclass. Right? At that time, we can call this kind of relationship as the union type. In other words, your superclass is category. At this time, mostly, the subclass is more important. The previous one, mostly superclass is and inherit. But in this case, the subclass is more important. The problem is, person is the social security number, bank is the browser, company is the company ID. All attributes are different, so we need to address that problem later. So at that time, we can create the fake, it's not fake, it's a surrogate, artificial key, like the owner ID. Intentionally add owner ID here, owner ID here, owner ID here. Then we can categorize different type of owner. We will see more later. This one happened in real database design. However, most of the case, instead of using this union type, you directly address the problem by type categorize. So we will see such an example later. So this is a union type, and so on. As I mentioned, we can use such a UML diagram for the representation, or this is another the diagram notation. You can see the slide. There are 3 crowfoot style. Crowfoot style is we will use the crowfoot style. It's a bird fruit, so it has the 3 represent the multi and the 1 represent the single, like that. And also, we can use the min-max notation, what is the industrial design, the notation, and also UML notation. There are a bunch of different. But intuitively, most of that, you can understand the meaning of it. There's no standard, general standard. Okay. So, we are going to start the exercise, first exercise lab. I ask you to install and download and install the software. to bring your laptop and start the. If you are using the Mac, sometimes the Orwin software doesn't work. So same thing on my laptop. So I'm using the Workbench from the MySQL. Those who are using the Windows, you can download. First, you need to register. Then you can get the free license for educational. So you can send the email, the UB email, then you can receive the UB license. I hope you did before. So why don't you open either Irwin data modeler or the Workbench modeler. So this is the example of the Workbench. I do not have the data modeler for the data modeler, so you can download the exercise lab, and so you can follow the step. Okay. First thing, Workbench is a tool for MySQL. So it works well with the MySQL, and also main purpose of the Workbench is for modeling and creating and managing MySQL database. So it's not very powerful tool. Very simple to use, so easy to understand, but for example, super subclass, no way to represent. Because later you will see database cannot create the super and subclasses relationship. So Workbench does not support diagram for super and subclass. But Irwin software is a general software. It's not only for database, it can be used for conceptual modeling only, it can be used for the project management, and also it provides the like the component design, which means if you define the class automatically create the code like that. So it's very powerful. So I suggest to use the Irwin for your practice, but if not, so Workbench and many other modeling tools. A lot the free software you can find, and most of the product they provide the academic license, which is free. Okay, so as long as you have the .edu account, you can get the free license, including data modeling. Okay, so in this class we are going to practice with for Windows user, you can use the data modeler, and if you go to the page exercise lab document, page 11. So why don't you go to the page 11? So that is this one. Yes. So conceptual modeling using the Irwin. So you can download this document and use the instruction. Based on the instruction, follow the data modeling. Okay, we are going to create the sales database like this one. So how many entity types? So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 entity types. Each entity has the attribute name. Right now, ignore the meaning of this. Later, because this tool eventually used for database design, so it has something detailed information about the database data type, like the variable character, integer, date, and so on, which we'll discuss later. So right now you can ignore this, and then what is a null, what not null, don't worry. So what we are going to implement in this database design is conceptual level design that require the entity name and their attribute and the one-to-one, one-to-many, many-to-many relationship. Okay. So if you are using the Irwin data modeler, start your data modeler, then the new model, like that. So please follow this. You don't have to select the target database, but if you select correctly the setup, the database, if you create the table in your model or entity, automatically create the table on the connected database. Okay, but which is not required right now. Okay, and several other options. You can follow the direction and be ready. Okay, so if you are using the workbench, so there's a sample. First, why don't you take a look at this sample. So your database will be like this one, database design. So you can see the entity and the entity and their relationship. You can easily understand this is a many side, this is a one side. You can see the key, okay? This is a really key. The most of the designing tool use the icon for the key, and you will see later sometimes the color and so on. That will be used for relationship, okay? And eventually in database it's a foreign key and primary key and so on. But if you do not understand what I'm saying, don't worry, we will cover later. So what we are going to implement is ER modeling, ER diagram using this one and this one and this one and their relationship. Also, similarly, just like the Arwin software, if you go to the menu, there are different notation. Like you can see you can go to the model and relationship notation. There is a Crowfoot type. So this is a Crowfoot type. You can see the many side here and this one. There is a classic style. Classic style is what we use. Like you can see the rhombus here. You can specify the name over here. So there are menu to whether you show the name of a relationship or not. You can see 1, 2, 1 through. It's a one min-max notation. It's composite. It's an n side and so on. And you can see the different, slightly different from what we learned. And also there are, you can see the UML type. So UML type, so it has a key and a list of attributes and so on. For the object, we are going to use the Crowfoot. In this case, that is the same thing for the Arwin software. So we are going to create a new ER diagram. It's a new. Are you ready? So for the Arwin software, I do not have the software in my MacBook. So please follow. You can download the exercise document. Go to the page 11. Then use the instruction. Okay. So first, to create there are two basic things when you design the ER modeling. So one is the entity, another one is the relationship. So here, this is the entity, okay, and these are the relationship. So for the entity, it's simple. You can just click and add, okay. So and the relationship I'm going to explain later. So if you want to edit the name of, so we have the set customers. Then it has the key. The key is the customer ID. So if you click it's automatically create the key, primary key of this one. So we'd like to change the name, the CUST underscore ID. Data type you can ignore, but if you want, you can change it. Data type, if you click the data type, you can see the variable. It's called the variable character. It's a string, okay? So you can select, then it's a 10 byte, like that, okay? If you want to add more, like the customer address, so CUST underscore name. It's a variable 50. And let me add one more, CUST city. And that's also 15. Actually, this is a tool for database, the MySQL databases. So you can find a lot of options. Bottom tab, you can create the index, you can create a foreign key, trigger, partitioning, and a lot. But the conceptual level design, we don't have to. So we are going to ignore, just create the this. Okay. Then why don't you create the first entity? Let's create one more order. Orders. Let's go to the color and the primary key. So primary key is in this example order is the order number. And it can be number where it has an integer, just select the integer. Then the order date and the order date. You can find the option for the date. And we can add CUST ID, and this is the 10 byte. And if you want to select the non-null, there's the NN option. NN is the non-null. Okay, then that's it. So why don't you at least create the two tables, customer and orders. So in case of the Alwyn software, after you set up everything, so left hand side the entity you can do similar way, or you can select the icon, then the click, then the click again on your place, then you can create the entity, then change the name of entity like with the pop-up. Then add the attribute, okay? Then you can exit. So if you want to specify the data type, you can do that, which is not required right now. So, but it's up to you. So please complete up to 8 to creating 2 entities. If you do not have the data modeler yet, so to download the data modeler, you need to register your email. 2 ways. One is you can register for the academic version, or you can just try the free trial. Free trial will be expired 30 days as far as I know. But the academic version is every year you can renew. It's free. So, but you need to wait the email from the customer, and how long it takes? 24 hours. So I think if you do not have it right now, so why don't you try? Nothing to lose. In the market, Alwyn data modeler is the most popular designing software. It's not only for the database conceptual design, database design, you are the whole entire project design also. If you do not have right now, you can find the Workbench. Workbench also works with what is that? The Windows. You don't have to register. You can just download MySQL, mostly open source. So you don't have to register for Oracle. Right now, Oracle purchased the MySQL, but it's still free. So you can download and install right away. Or you can find a bunch of other modeling tools, so you can use. If you go to sourceforge.com, then you can find the open source. Okay, so then let's create the relationship. So there are 3 different types of relationship. You can see the different icon. So it's a crow food type. So the food side is the many side. Without food is the one side. So this is one to many. This is many to many. Okay. Then there are 2 types of the relationship. If you go to, it's very hard to close this tab here, because actually behind on top there's a menu, but sometimes it doesn't show such a menu. So let me pull down. Okay, but still there's a menu. You can see this one-to-one and one-to-many, one-to-one, one-to-many. The difference is the non-identifying. This is the identifying. So you can create the identifying, which means this identifying is different from identifying relationship that we discussed. So this dot line, the top to the relationship is the if this attribute is part of a primary key, it's identifying. Okay? If not, it's the non-identifying. So in general, we can use this one. Okay? Specific case, we can use it. It's a strong. So we are going to use this. So for example, if we want to create a one-to-many, so let's click the one-to-many. So sometimes it shows the pop, the volume, a balloon. The description place a new one-to-many non-identified relationship. So which means, first click the one side is one customer and many order right there. So we can click, or it's the opposite. This one first, many side first, then one side. So you can see this one is a many side, this is a one side. So then we can change the relationship name. So this is the order, for example, like that. If you don't like this notation, go to the model and the relationship and classic. So classic is the longest style, then we can see one-to-many. Then let me delete the relationship, then create the many-to-many. It's the same thing for the Orin data modeler. So I'm going to create the many-to-many. Hold on, take a look at this one. So I'd like to create the many-to-many relationship. Actually, this one is a one-to-many, but I'd like intentionally create the many-to-many. What happened? Instead of creating many-to-many relationship, automatically create one-to-many relate the two relationship with additional entity. This is very important later when we create the database. Relational database cannot handle many-to-many. Okay? Conceptual model, we can understand meaning of many-to-many. But in database cannot create the many-to-many. So Workbench automatically change many-to-many into one-to-many relationship with this one. Okay? However, Irwin software, it provides the option. Either keep the many-to-many relationship or this one, if you right-click. But the Irwin software, but the Workbench, there is no the option to change it many-to-many. Because this one is for database. a MySQL database. So it's a simple version of the data modeling tool. So that is the reason don't be surprised when you create the many-to-many workbench and many simple software automatically change one-to-many, and entity. But the Irwin software if you create the many-to-many, so you have the option right click whether you keep the many-to-many relationship or creating additional, like this one, additional entity type. Okay? If you continue the database design, it will be like this one. Okay, customer, order item, orders, vendor, and product, their relationship. This is the ER diagram. For the EER, okay, so Irwin software, you have the option that this icon, okay, it's called a complete subcategory. So you can create the first super and subclass and join this as many as possible. So workbench, if you are using the workbench, let me delete this. If you really want to create the super and subclass using the workbench, you can create the 3 entity, then create like the one-to-one, another one-to-one, create, then take the node. So this is the disjoint. Oops. In the text box, you can change it. This is the generalization and disjoint and mandatory total participation, like that. So you can put the note to understand the meaning of this one. So pretend this is a super and subclasses relationship, like that. Okay, so time's up. We couldn't complete. This is just a software. There is no special skill. It's a very generic software. So you can feel free to use this one. So as a homework of exercise, so first you need to submit the one-page company database ER diagram. Okay, so before you leave, submit it. And today is the due of your own database, the description and ER diagram that will be used for your midterm, the exam. Okay, it's a 60%. Because we are going to use your database for the database design and SQL and everything. So I will have the quiz based on the hospital. So you will see what kind of question you will solve during the midterm exam. So that is the homework. By Monday, why don't you finalize the pop-up quiz, today. Then another thing is using software, complete the sales database, okay, and submit to the canvas. I'm going to create the canvas. So your PDF, you can save as a PDF or JPEG file, okay, PDF or JPEG, okay. Do not save as Irwin or such a thing. Just a PDF or the JPEG and submit the created ER diagram using your software. It doesn't have to be only the Workbench or the Irwin. If you download any other software, it's fine. But not hand-drawn, not Visio, not the PowerPoint, the software management tool. So by next class, it takes 10 minutes. Okay, mostly it takes just 10 minutes. Upload the finalized this diagram, says the database diagram to the Canvas. I will send the list of your homework this evening, what you guys need to do. Okay, thanks so much. We will see the next class. And also, pretty much next week, I'm going to send